So, what does it mean to track pain? Tracking our pain is actually something which occurs unconsciously for most of us because we are unaware of what we focus on most. We're unaware of what we focus most of our thoughts upon. So, tracking pain means to focus upon and replay painful experiences and then nurture painful memories. Tracking our pain means holding on to painful emotions associated with the experience far beyond usefulness to the point of bitterness. So basically, it means tracking pain means that you focus upon and replay and nurture painful experiences and painful memories, and that you hold on to the painful emotions associated with the experience beyond any usefulness to the point of bitterness. That's what it means to track pain. Now, I'm a firm believer that we all do it, we all have done it, and this webinar is about how to shift. It is not about never having pain, never tracking pain. It's about how to shift from not tracking pain to tracking bliss. There will always be pain, but how do you shift from one to the other? That's what we're going to get into. So, we're going to go into some questions immediately. So, we'll just know that we're all where we're supposed to be, that it's synchronicity that brought you to this webinar today. So, I'm going to start with some questions that I'm going to ask you in regards to whether you're tracking your pain or not. You may already know this and don't need these questions, but this will help. That's probably why you're here. You already know that you do it. You don't need 20 questions, but just bear with me. For the rest of us, for that one person who's, you know, at the webinar because Spirit told them they obeyed, but they really don't think they need it. They're really not wondering, or they're really wondering why they're here. Bear with me for them. Okay. So, are you tracking pain? How old is your most painful memory? So this question is, how old is the memory of the pain? Not when was the experience or how old was you. How old is the memory of the pain? What that means is this: if your most painful memory is when your mother and your father divorced and that happened when you were 10 and now you are 40, the memory of your pain is 30 years old. Okay? So how old is your most painful memory? How often do you think of this painful memory? Is it once a year because there's a certain date associated with the painful memory? Is it holidays, birthdays, in the day of a loved one's passing or transition? Is it your anniversary because it's your spouse or ex-spouse? You see? How often do you think of the painful memory? Is it every day, once a week, every other month, every 5 years? How often? Maybe you haven't thought of the painful memory since you were in high school and now you're 35. That most painful memory, maybe you haven't thought of it in years now. But write down how often. And once again, try and keep your answers to one word or one sentence. No more than that. No books. We don't have time to write books today. You can contact me offline if you're trying to write a book. That's a whole nother service. So, is it ever triggered? And we're talking about the painful memory by something said or done by others. Can someone else say something about their bad relationship that triggers your painful memories? And when that happens, how do you react? How do you react when it's triggered by others? Do you become upset? Do you become antisocial? Do you withdraw, become depressed, sad, or even cry or get angry and lash out? Do you leave the party or you go sit in the corner? Do you get a drink and dance on the dance floor in an attempt to forget What was just triggered in you? How do you react? And now, how do you feel after you replay the experience in your mind? The other question was, how do you react when someone else triggers it? This question is, how do you feel after replaying the experience in your mind? What is the strongest emotion that it arouses? And I want one word. If you could only pick one emotion and one word for that emotion, what would it be? What's the strongest emotion? Is it anger, regret, fear, love, remorse, rage, disappointment? What is it? Have you been able to forgive the person you hold responsible for the painful experience? Has forgiveness taken away the pain? If you have truly forgiven, have you considered that it still hurts only because you continue to keep the pain alive by replaying the experience? Let me take that one more step further. Can I submit to you then that by replaying the offense over in your mind, you have to take the place of the offender? That you have taken the place of the offender and are hurting yourself over and over and over again? The offender hurt you once. By replaying the experience, you've hurt yourself over and over again a million times. Can I reveal to you another truth? If it still hurts, have you truly forgiven? If you have not forgiven, it will be hard to let go and certainly hard to heal. If you haven't forgiven, why not? Do you in some way believe the offender has to do something or say something in order to earn your forgiveness before it can occur? Are you waiting for an apology or an explanation? What if the person has transitioned? Can you accept the apology that you never got? Mm, or may never get? Is the person you haven't forgiven you? Sometimes in our subconscious mind, we actually believe we deserved it. hmm Do you believe that by forgiving and letting go, it in some way lets the offender off the hook? Do you believe that forgiving and letting go in some way diminishes your pain or the offender's consequences? Do you believe holding on to the painful memory prevents it from happening again? I didn't put this in there, but I submit that holding on to pain attracts more pain. Do you realize that holding on to your pain requires you to retain it, to recall it, to replay the experience and the emotions you felt over and over and over and over and over and over and over again? So the question is, are you tracking pain? The answer is, for most of us, 9 times out of 10, the answer is yes. So today, this webinar is not about saying you will never track pain again. It's about becoming consciously aware of the fact that you track pain and understanding how to shift from tracking pain to tracking your bliss. and knowing what that shift requires, how to shift. Because the pain, as long as we're living, as long as we're alive, we will experience pain. So it's not about not feeling pain, not experiencing pain. It's about, once I have been hurt, once I felt the pain, once I have the painful memories, how do I go about shifting so that I do not nurture the pain? I will not replay, recall, retain, and hurt myself over and over and over again. How do I shift? So let's talk about how to shift. What if I told you there was a purpose, a divine reason for every painful experience you ever had? You might be very hard pressed to believe that. But I'm going to ask you, would you believe me? Because it's true. The only thing about this, though, in order for us to get this and understand this and comprehend this, we must shift in a way not only to believe that there is purpose in pain, which I talk about in my first book, Tragic Treasures, but that we actually have to search for the purpose. Oh, yeah. What I call transformational life lessons, we have to search for purpose in every experience. If you want to know more about that in detail, get Tragic Treasures. Read that. It talks all about discovering spoils of war in the midst of tragedy. So it talks about finding the treasure, hidden though it may be, in the midst of dead things though it may be, covered in the blood and the guts of the battle though it may be. There are still treasures among tragedy that many of us overlook, disregard, and never find. So all we're stuck with is the pain. So the first thing we have to shift is we have to shift our thoughts and know that there's purpose in every experience, even painful ones, and that we must search for that purpose. Allow this webinar to shift your consciousness today.